Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming again. And want to wish everybody Moadim L'Simcha, Chag Sameach. It's a real pleasure to be here. Eat, enjoy, please, and get the Yetzer Hara out of the way, and then we'll be able to learn some big chidushim. Hopefully here tonight. Some stuff that we already know, and some stuff that hopefully we never knew before. The one thing that I started speaking about with Morris last night, something that I used to bother me as a child. There's a lot of talk, and even in the Tanya, it talks about the idea of reward and punishment. Very rewarding, feels very good. Nice to meet you. And also, on the other hand, very scary, the idea of punishment. And we know that there's always a score being kept, and we talk about it especially around the high holidays. We talk about being a Benoni, the opposite of what the Baal HaTanya talks about, being a Benoni. He talk in the high holidays, we talk about doing one extra mitzvah to tip the scales. In the flip side, the same thing we talk about, the Lubavitcher Rebbe always talks about how we do one extra mitzvah to bring Mashiach. Just increase a little bit in good deeds to each other, to HaShem. So when you think about all this, tightrope, it could be a little anxiety. It could be a little anxious. And it can cause people sometimes, chas v'shalom, to maybe just feel like I can't. It's too much. It's always stress. Why do I have to always feel like there's always accounting, there's always, the matzah is here, everybody. So, if you think about it, obviously it could, for some people, be stressful. So, the trick is not to think about it. Obviously, it's still happening. Yes, there's someone keeping score, and in the end of the day, we're going to give judgment on ourselves. We're going to see a video. Now it's easy to understand because we have TVs, we understand what videos are, but imagine this idea that to be able to see on a diamond a person's entire life before their eyes, but they're going to be amnesia. They're not going to know who they're watching the story about. And they're watching this really wonderful documentary feature film about this guy. Wow, what an exciting life. And then at the end, they have to judge, what did this guy, what was it all about? Was he good? Was he tzaddik? Or was he a rasha? Or was he benoni? And he has to make this decision. It's A, B, or C. That's it. There's no, he's either going up the elevator or down the elevator. And we learned from the Baal Shem Tov, who taught most, he had many students, but the Baal HaTanya learned from the Magid of Mezrich, who learned directly from the Baal Shem Tov, that a person will judge his friend the way he judges his friend during his whole life. So that's the same way that he's going to judge himself. So if you accustom yourself now to judge your friend in a more favorable, thank you, in a more, give him a curve, the way HaShem grades us. Don't be such a tough guy. Grade your friend the way that you want to be graded. And the same way in the future, we're preparing. He says it's a trick. You set yourself up now to take care of yourself by taking care of other people. So I was thinking about this concept of the scoreboard and thinking very daunting. So how do you then you see in Tanya, you see a beautiful way to veer focus a little bit and focus on something that is a lot more pleasing rather than fearing, which is when it talks about in the Zohar, he quotes the Zohar, that says that the mitzvot are evrei de malka, limbs of Hashem. When we're eating matzah, Someone pointed out to me the other night that matzah is the only food, the only mitzvah that you ingest. I just correct, that's not true, also maror. But interestingly, there's not many mitzvot. Usually you say a bracha, and then you eat it, but the bracha is about prepare. Okay. So back to scoreboard, I'm sorry. So in order to avoid the anxiety, you focus on the idea that you're connecting to Hashem. When a person thinks about the fact when he's putting on tefillin, Hashem is putting on tefillin at the same time. What does it say in Hashem's tefillin? It says, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. Who is like you? Yisrael. Goy. It's right. Hashem has myriads of worlds, thousands and thousands upon worlds, and he puts everything aside. Happens to be today's Tanya's chapter 41. Something that the Lubavitch Rebbe says you should say every day or every time, right before you pray or before you do a mitzvah, you should say this chapter. You could do it in like 3 minutes if you get used to it. The concept is that when you are about to do something, like we say many times, know who you're standing in front of. And don't just do it. You have to do it for Hashem's sake. A person could give tzedakah because he feels good about himself. It's not bad. Do it, obviously, because one day you'll do it for the right reasons. But if you have proper, we always talk about kavanah, we talk about proper intent. The basic intent for doing a mitzvah is you're doing it because this is what Hashem wants me to do. It says, B'chol minei avodat eved, in all ways of a servant in servitude. If a person's a servant, he doesn't think, I like this job, I like that job. I have this job to do. And if I don't do it, either something bad's going to happen, or I like my master, so I'm going to do it anyway. But whatever it is, it's not because I like to do it. So we have to focus on all these possibilities, all these avenues, all these conduits. And it says that the 613 mitzvot are keneged the 613 parts of our body. Limbs and sinews and all these different parts, that inner workings that a doctor can verify, that all these things have a direct connection to spirituality. There's been many times people came to the Lubavitch Rebbe and asked for a sickness, a healing for a sickness, and he said, take on washing your hands in the morning, and take on, is there anything that you think you should take on, something to do better spiritually? Many times people ask the Rebbe, I'm asking you physical, why are you telling me to wash my hands? What's the difference? So we know, first of all, during the bubonic plague, that there was many people who blamed the Jews for making everybody sick during the Black Plague because they washed hands every day. Just b'derech memela, just by chance they were healthier. So that's not what the Rebbe was talking about. But it also helps. Hashem also gave us this gift of fasting every once in a while. I just saw recently in the India Times that it's healthy for the body to fast once or twice a month. It's good. It's good for you. They're figuring it out now. They're getting... Hashem gave us the gift. Everything in the Torah is there, obviously, to help us and also to connect with Hashem, which is an extra bonus for the Jewish people. Another beautiful connection we have is, of course, the Torah. And it goes back and forth, which is a greater level. Is the mitzvot greater or learning Torah greater? Most people would say learning Torah is greater. But then I have a question for you. Learning Torah people do in Shamayim. Why did the neshama have to go down into this world and go through all this pain and suffering? Maybe it's to do in this world of asiyah, the world of action, is to do the mitzvot, like putting on tefillin, eating matzah. You can't do that in Shamayim. So there's a good answer to that, which is if you learn Torah, you're fulfilling a mitzvah, which you can do down here, and you're using your lips, which is called maaseh. You're actually doing something. And it's also using your machashava, you're using your dibur and your maaseh. So it's the highest level of a mitzvah. But obviously, we know that learning Torah is pushed aside sometimes for, let's say, doing a seder, or for The famous one is saying Shema in the right time, and there's a big machloket. But the point of it is that when a person is learning Torah, the meditation, besides for having the right kavanah, that you're doing it lishma, that you're doing it for what Hashem wants, there's also a concept of, I think the words are itabcha rucha berucha, connecting your breath to his breath, connecting your mind, your intellect, to his intellect. It's like they say, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. There's no comparison when we talk to Hashem. When we talk about Hashem, there's no us and him. It's 1 and 0. But we're not 0, obviously. We're special because we're a Jew, but there's no way to comprehend it. So if you think about that, the fact that we're able, Hashem is able, it says a place where you see a person's greatness is where you see his humility. Hashem minimized himself into simple black and white letters, into mitzvot, into Torah that we can comprehend, and that we can then, these mitzvot, do them, and we can connect with him. So we connect our intellect to Hashem's intellect, which is, if you think about it, it's impossible. It says, you cannot understand me. Hashem says, it's not possible for you. However, he made Torah that we can understand him. How lucky we are. We say every morning how lucky we are, our inheritance, Mayafa Yerushatenu, that we got this from our forefathers, and we're able to connect with Hashem on a physical level and also a mental level. And then, of course, that we learn the Torah, we're able to actually use it and use it b'chol minei avodat eved, in all the ways of a servant. I thought it was a beautiful hashgacha pratit that we're talking about in the current cycle of Tanya, talking about the idea of a servant, eved, in a beautiful way. And we are right now sitting in Mitzrayim, avadim hayinu, sitting in, obviously we're not in Mitzrayim now, but in every day we're trying to escape a spiritual Mitzrayim. Mitzarim is boundaries, and Gvulim is Mitzarim u'Gvulim. And the Hashgacha Pratit is obviously clear. What obviously is the reason why Hashem sent us down to Mitzrayim originally the first time, which is supposedly is quoted many times as the model for all the galuts that we're even in today, from then till now, the model of the galut, the exile that we're going through even today. And the main reason was to teach us servitude, because before that we were in a way kings. We were Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We felt it. We were the kings. Nobody, messed with us. And if they did, we killed them. It was like this kings, that kings, 4 kings, 5 kings. There was no comparison. Everybody was, when you were Bnei Yaakov, Bnei Israel, you thought you were the king of the world. And we should feel the same way also. Just to quote a really small, beautiful story, somebody once came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and said that he's helping out this organization, whatever it was, and he was bringing people that were far closer. It's a very famous term in Kiruv, concept of Kiruv. I once heard a Chabad rabbi crying at a Farbrengen about the word Kiruv, bringing something close. He says you can only bring something close if it's far. So the concept, obviously we know, we use the term lightly because a person is not in the fold, he's not so religious or frum, whatever you call it. But the Lubavitcher Rebbe turned to this person and said, I think he used the term not affiliated or not connected. So he says, we're all connected to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It makes no difference how far a person might think. Just like that, they can turn around and do teshuvah. On the concept of teshuvah, there was a beautiful quote from, I believe it's a Gemara in Yomah that's quoted in Tanya, that says that a person who does, a person who is, who says echteh v'ashuv, a person who says I'm going to sin, and don't worry, I'll just I'll do it now, and then later I'll do teshuvah. So, without quoting the rest of this, as a child, I thought that means impossible to ever do teshuvah about something like that. And speaking to people, I've heard other people agreed with me that they thought that sounds about right. When you sin, you can't have in mind that you're going to do teshuvah. But if you think about it, we could even, it says in Hayom Yom, we could even learn from a thief, because in the middle of the night, he's breaking into someone's house, probably another fellow Jew, and he's trying to steal something, and in the middle of his shenanigans, he's praying to Hashem, help me. What's wrong with this guy? He says, I'm breaking what you say, but I really want you to help me do this. The answer is that really, that's what happens. A Jew is a Jew is a Jew. He still wants Hashem to help him.
I mean, that's something I can't fathom.
Believe it or not, it happens in many other ways. If a person thinks about it, they do things in business that doesn't sound 100% kosher, but you pray, Hashem, help me, I need hatzlacha, rabbah, right? So if you think about it, it's not so far off. Our Yetzer Hara diverts us and makes us think that we're doing the right things. And sometimes we don't even think we're doing the right things, but we still fight, we still ask for help in this way. So the words that it emphasizes on, the Baal HaTanya emphasizes in this quote, Echtev Ashuv, it said, En maspikin lo. We do not assist him in doing teshuvah. What does that mean? When a person wants to do teshuvah, it could be one prayer. It could be one thought even. What was the name? You could help me. There was a famous story in the Gemara about a big Rasha in 1 minute. He did teshuvah, and then the Bat Kol said, he's going to Shamayim. He's going to heaven. The point is, yeah, there's a beautiful story, and people said, what do you mean? There's a Bat Kol that says, this guy? We saw what this guy did. How could this guy go to heaven after everything he did? Because Hashem is a father in heaven. A father, a billionaire father, wants to give his kid a place in the company. All he wants him to do to get his $1 million salary every year, just take this pen. So you don't want to do anything else? Okay, fine. Take my pens and papers and move them over here. You don't want to do it? I can't give you anything. You just got to do something. Do a little bit. So Hashem tells us that He's not going to help us if we do it intentionally, that we're going to do teshuvah, because teshuvah is a bypass, if you will. The world was created originally with din v'cheshbon, back to the scoreboard. It was really set up with ones and zeros. It's you either did it or you didn't do it. But then we know He wanted, it wouldn't sustain that way, because in the world of din, the world of judgment, we would all be goners. It didn't work. We tried it. Hashem tried it. It didn't work. So you had to add rachamim. And that's why we use the Yud Gimel, the 13 attributes of mercy, whenever we need them, whether it's the high holidays or whether there's a tragedy. We try to access, or a fast day, we try to access the Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim. And we try to utilize them in order to bring down Hashem's mercy, because He gave us this avenue, this conduit, this bypass, that we should be able to come closer to Him and to return from our ways in a better way. Something I was, when I was preparing a little bit, I thought about you, in Mitzrayim we had, it says it talks about in the Chumash, Chomer ulevenim. And we talked about Chomer many times. Chomer is literally physicality, corporeality, but also the word Chamor is the same. It could be a very negative connotation, but also the word Chamor comes in a very positive light as well, as someone, the Yisachar was a Chamor. He had the old Torah, the yoke of Torah, and we also have to, in the flip side, we also have to minimize our physicality, our chumriyut, right? We have to try to it says, Kadesh atzmecha b'mutar lach. How do you make yourself holy? Whatever you're permitted, slow down a little bit, the Levanim is a very interesting connection to last week's. The Levanim means bricks, technically, because it was from mortar, it made bricks. But the word, the Shoresh Lavan is quoted in the Tanya many times about the highest level of Mochin, the Abba, the idea of when a man is together with his wife and creating a child, the white comes all the way from the man's head, from the highest level in there. And we can make ourselves holy with that in the most highest level of a holy way, especially in that way. Another way, another quote from the Tanya that says that in that same way, HaShem, it says, is our Father, and we come from His deepest essence. In that, mashal example, if you will, and like it says that there's three partners in a man: husband, wife, and of course Hashem. We just want to finish off with one last thing, which really I should say for another class, but I just have to throw this in here. When a person, because we're talking about teshuvah, and we're talking about...
What do you mean finish off? You just started.
I know, I'm telling you.
Take your time, please.
We got
just getting situated.
We're already over time, thank God. Just one more beautiful thing that I saw, actually, once trying to put my kid to sleep, and I was reading through something, and it said by Miriam, it said that in the Pasuk, that it says that the Bnei Israel waited for her because she had Tzara'at in the desert, 7 days, and then they went on with Vayisu, and I think it's in Matot Maseh, that they went on in their journey. And Rashi, in quoting this, says instead of the word Bnei Israel, he changes the lashon to say Hamakom, that Hashem waited. And if you know the way the Lubavitch Rebbe takes these things apart, that doesn't go unnoticed. What's happening here? First you say Bnei Israel in the Pasuk, and then you change it to Hamakom. Who waited? We know the story about the Bnei Israel. They waited because they had Hakarat HaTov. They had gratitude that Moshe Rabbeinu was in the river, and Miriam waited until Batya picked him up. So because of that, the Jews waited in the desert. So why are we saying now that Hashem Hashem waited? So
who changed it?
Rashi. Rashi comes, it says many times, to give the simple explanation of the pasuk to a 5-year-old. So we have to understand it on a very simple level. Sometimes he brings in a Zohar, which I'm sure the 5-year-old has a hard time with, but it's a nice little touch when that happens. So he brings a quote from a few places in the Gemara that there are a few times where Hashem had to do mind control. And Hashem had to tell us, the Jewish people, sometimes a father tells a kid, no, you can't have the candy. Even though you think, Bechira, we have to have free choice 100% of the time. The answer was, he said in there, no. He says, sometimes it blew my mind. Sometimes I'm not gonna let you mess yourself up this bad. I'm gonna make sure you take care of yourself. And he brings a quote from a very famous quote that we have, we quote many times, which is Hakol bidei shamayim, chutz miyirat shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, except fear of heaven. So, as a child, this bothered me a lot, because either everything's in the hands of heaven, or it's not. You can't say one and expect the other to make sense. So you could answer it as an older person. You could say, you're saying accept, but still, it didn't seem right. So he says over there, the Balatanya, he says, this is I believe in Likutei Torah and Bamidbar. he says that when you think about the words, again, break it down. Hakol bidei shamayim chutz miyat shamayim. We kind of glaze over it because it doesn't say Hakol bashamayim. It says Hakol biyedei shamayim. The yedei shamayim were created. Hashem made this in between Hashem and us. It's called the 10 Sephirot. And these 10 emanations, these different, I don't want to, channels. Yeah, I don't want to say like watered down, God forbid, but it's more like, filter also is hard. Yeah, but the point is, he created these items to go in between him, who's infinite, and us, who are limited, because otherwise, infinite creates infinite. And we have to be limited. We have to also be in a way of separation that we don't see him. Because we can't be an Eved if we know the truth so crystal clear, which is going to happen when Mashiach comes. But for now, we have to be in this ruse. We have to be in this game so that we can choose him. Because en melech belo'am, there's no king without an actual nation. A nation would not be a nation if it was just a bunch of children, right? If one king had 1,000 children, it's not a nation, it's his family. But a nation chooses the king. So Hashem makes it separate for us. He gives us the opportunity to be independent, to feel independent. We're really all part of him. And without him, we can go back to zero in a second. So we have to realize Yedei Shamayim is chesed and gevurah. Chesed is kindness and gevurah is severity. That's what Oseh Shalom Bimromav means, making peace in the heavens between severity, which is considered like fire, and chesed, which is considered like water. Rabbi Malko always says, why do people want to come to the beach? To see all the water. The water is chesed. So when you see fire and water together, like we had in Barad, in Mitzrayim, this idea that they had to make shalom between each other. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all make shalom and live it in shalom, and the ultimate shalom. But the Yedei Shamayim, the way to, Hashem says, the way to really to get the real Yirat Shamayim is, yes, of course, it's up to us, but how does it start? Because if everything is really given to us from Hashem, and everything is really up to us, we know it says in the Gemara, I should have said earlier, it says in the Gemara that a person who thinks the Yirat Shamayim that he got, that he attained, is his own, from his own doing, he loses it. So how does that work? Either it's something I do, or it's not. So the answer is we have to recognize and realize that even what we do is with the energy that Hashem gave us, and everything that we do is a bare little tiny step. Like it says in the Zohar, we quote all the time, a small step is really a small arousal down here below creates a huge arousal from above, which is what Hashem really wants us just to recognize that, just do a little bit. And like we said, the billionaire tells his kid, move the pencil a little bit, and I'll give you the $1 million salary. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should all access the real Yirei Shamayim and the real Avat Shamayim, and hopefully see you all next week. Amen.